Hello, today we're going to show you how to make this spherical ceremonial arrangement in an urn. This is a very full and beautiful ceremonial arrangement, and for this arrangement you are going to need a couple of things. The arrangement we're making today is for a client and it's approximately 55 centimeters in diameter. Our client requested a pink and white theme. And for this arrangement, we're going to need one ceremonial urn. We're going to need a plastic container to put inside of the urn, and we have to make sure that it fits inside. We need approximately 4 blocks of oasis. And this is a floral sponge that you can find in a lot of floral supply centers. We're going to need some chicken wire, and this is very important in order to keep the pre-moistened oasis blocks secured to the plastic container. We're also going to use some sphagnum moss, and this is going to help fill in gaps and make sure that nothing is peering through. And we're going to use some 18 gauge wire. This is a very thick wire and it's very sturdy and durable, and that's precisely what we need for this arrangement. We're also going to need a few other essentials such as some floral tape, a floral knife, some scissors, and of course the flowers. And today we're going to use a mix of carnations and mums as well as some hydrangeas. And the reason why we're using some carnations and mums is because they're very long-lasting, durable flowers, especially when you are trying to make an arrangement that is meant to last throughout a very lengthy ceremony, such as a wedding, and this will ensure that they will not wilt or go bad during the ceremony. So to begin, you're going to need to create the plastic container or the plastic tray. As I mentioned previously, you have to ensure that this tray fits securely inside of your urn. Here we have approximately 4 rectangles of pre-moistened oasis or floral sponge. Then we're going to use chicken wire to wrap the sponge in, and this will ensure that the sponges will be secured, as well as create as a bit of a webbing network for where you're going to put your flowers through, therefore ensuring that they will not come loose, they will not lose shape. So we're going to begin by wrapping this chicken wire around the blocks of sponge, and we're going to thread some 18 gauge wire and tighten it. This is a very simple threading process, and you're just going to thread it through the holes in the chicken wire and secure it firmly so that the oasis is nicely packed into the chicken wire. The chicken wire is an essential component because it ensures that all of the floral sponge is nicely and tightly packed in, so it will not be coming loose. So this is essentially the base of our floral arrangement. This is what's going to keep every stem nicely secured. And then we're going to take it into this plastic container. And this plastic container is something that you can find at any dollar store or craft store. Just ensure that it fits inside the mouth of the container you're using for this arrangement. Then we're going to take some floral tape and secure it to the container. And now this is essential to make sure you take your time to do this because you have to make sure that the pre-moistened blocks and the chicken wire are nicely packed into the container. That way nothing will be coming loose and you can be comforted knowing that it's all secured to the plastic container. Now, you may not wish to put the container on and secure it to the urn. You really don't want to do that. You want to ensure that you can remove it from the urn in transportation, for example, or once the ceremony is over. So all you need to do is just ensure that this base is very nicely secured. Now for the next step, we're going to want to cover the chicken wire and the floral sponge. And why this is important is because sometimes the sponge and the chicken wire can peer through between the stems of the flowers, and this can give it a very off-putting appearance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some pins out of this 18 gauge wire, and you can buy pins from the store, but this is a lot cheaper, more efficient. And what you do is just cut your chicken wire into 4 pieces, and then you bend it to create this makeshift pin. And these pins are going to be used to attach the sphagnum moss to the blocks of oasis. As you see, we're just going to simply take the pins and pin it onto the oasis blocks. And this will ensure that the oasis and the moss are bound to each other and they will be coming loose or falling off, creating a mess, and so forth. And why we're using moss is for a couple of reasons. Number one, as I've already said, it's aesthetically pleasing and you're not going to see through the stems and notice some sponge or some chicken wire, but also the moss is moist and you can spray the moss, and this will just add an additional layer of moisture to the flower, so the flowers are going to last longer, as well as help contain the moisture inside of the floral oasis blocks so that it doesn't dry out or dries out a lot less quick. And this will ensure that the flowers stay fresh longer, that the arrangement lasts longer, and that you do not have to worry about it dehydrating. So take your time and do this, and once the process is finished, you are ready to begin assembling your arrangement. Now this is a very easy arrangement to make. It's just a little bit time consuming, but all in all, the effects of it are very beautiful, so take your time. Then you will be simply taking your container. We are using a white urn, and we will be placing the plastic container in it. And like I mentioned previously, our customer, our bride, wants the arrangement to be about 55 centimeters in diameter. So that is what we're going to be working with, and this becomes an essential part when measuring the stems and determining the spatial form of this arrangement. So take a ruler, a measuring stick, a measuring tape, and create your visual boundaries here. So this is how you know essentially how long the stems that you're going to be cutting should be. Like I said, we are using white carnations. The client's theme is predominantly white with a few touches of pink. And when you place your measuring stick against the container, you can already visually sense how long the stem should be. And then you're going to cut the stems accordingly, ensuring that the stem is embedded in the oasis, in the floral sponge. And then you are going to place your flowers. So to begin, in order to get a great sense of the shape that you're going for, you're just going to place the flowers in a visual sphere. So you just want to create these essential points of shape by placing a couple of flowers and ensuring that you have met your diameter requirement, because the diameter should be pretty true to form to what you're trying to achieve. The reason for it being is that you want to create the shape that you want to create. You're also going to have a flower stemming from underneath the container and downward so that it is, in fact, a spherical shape. So once again, grab a measuring stick and measure the stems, placing them throughout the container. As you see, I have some on the side, I have some on the top, and I will be inserting some at the bottom. Place the carnations at the edges as well, so at the top. Once again, you are imitating the spherical shape that you wish to create, and once you have the skeletal structure complete, the rest of it is fairly easy. Just ensure you are measuring the stems because you want it to be a symmetrical sphere, not too many imperfections. So just continue creating this shape. The idea here is to create a sphere that is full and voluminous and insert the flowers in accordance to that shape. As you see here, it's fairly easy. All you have to do is ensure that you are creating that volume and that shape. You are going to want to cover up the container that is peering through. So you are going to want to also insert some flowers at the bottom, but understanding at the same time that at the bottom is where the stems will be more deeply inserted instead of more lengthfully. So as you see here, the bottom needs to be a little bit shorter, coming up to the top where it's fuller, so to create that visual effect. But take your time and carry on. If you make a mistake, just adjust and try to get a sense of it. But once you do have a sense of it, it is fairly simple to complete this process. So once you have inserted your carnations in that spherical skeletal shape, and you have measured it out and you have approximately the diameter that you were going for, or exactly the diameter that you're going for depending on how skilled you were in this process, you can begin filling in the gaps, so to speak. And here we are taking some mums. And these are also very sturdy, very lively flowers. We have some hydrangeas, and we will be using these more sparingly because, as you might know, hydrangeas require constant hydration in order to survive. So you don't want the hydrangea to be the main portion of this arrangement because hydrangeas have a higher tendency of wilting, and sometimes this is unpreventable depending on where this arrangement is standing, what the floral sponge is like, and how much water it's able to contain, what the climate is, whether it's outside or not. So be very sparing with hydrangeas, and they should be used mainly to create a greater sense of fullness and fill in large gaps. Whereas the carnations and the mums are very long-living and can withstand a lot more. When you are taking your hydrangeas, ensure that you cut on a diagonal angle and open up the stem. Do not cut straight across. Do not cut horizontally with a pair of scissors. Make sure you open the stem on a diagonal angle, and that way you can guarantee that more and more water will enter the stem and keep it hydrated for longer. So carry on this process using the hydrangeas to fill in the large gaps between the flowers, and this will simply make the process a little bit easier on you, so you won't have to use as many carnations to create the fullness, and it will give it a very nice varying texture as well as an apparent fluffiness, which is very beautiful and elegant. So as you see here, we are using some hydrangeas in correspondence with the carnations and the mums. It's especially important that you, in the beginning steps of this tutorial, made sure that the oasis is secured and that you have some moss covering it to keep the moisture locked inside, because this will be necessary, especially if you're using hydrangeas. So as you see here, the hydrangeas do add a very simple fullness and kind of cut your work time in half because it allows you to fill those gaps in very quickly. But be mindful, and maybe if you have an outdoor ceremony, do not keep it in open sunlight where the hydrangeas can burn or wilt. They are very delicate flowers. So The rest of the process is you filling in the gaps between the flowers and ensuring that you're creating this spherical dimension. Now, our specific client wanted some pops of pink. So here we are using some pink carnations to give it that very nice soft pink color. Of course, the colors are entirely up to you and entirely up to the theme of your ceremony. Everything in this arrangement can be found in a different color or adjusted to be a different color. So this is 100% up to the look you're trying to achieve. Carnations are excellent because they have sturdy stems. They can withstand a lot of movement, transportation, heat, and even do not require too much water before they start to feel the climate and wilt, for example. So it is a good idea to have an abundance of carnations and mums that are more resilient flowers. But as you see here, this is almost the finished product. The last remaining touches is to fill in the gaps and add pops of color. If that is what you are going for, you can always leave the arrangement white. This is the finished product. As you see here, it is predominantly completely full and no gaps are visible. When you are transporting this, it is a good idea to take the plastic container, remove it from the urn, and put it in your vehicle for transportation. Do not transport it with the urn. Thank you so much for watching. This is the final product, and we wish you the best in your designing activities, and we hope you have a beautiful ceremony. Thank you for watching.